So the elves get massacred at Lit and Tetia's wedding by the royals who were manipulated by Zagreus. And Tetia lives on. And come to find out, she had twins?
What? I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Pull up, say what's the deal, bruh? See how I lose my cool any second if they don't hear us. Many people will fear us. Say when you look in the mirror, don't you compare us to anything that get embarrassed. Ha, ha, woo. So many people be talking like they want the problems or something. I noticed that all of you polish and all of you people get punished. It's hard to keep food on your stomach to all of the hustle keep running. That's hard to stay humble with nothing. We're off of the jungle, we're bugging. So let me come down all of a sudden. I told you that we keep it buzzing. Ha, woo. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out.
Yo, what's up, everybody? This is your boy, Jack OATz to go. You either know or you don't. First things first, follow me on Twitter. I'm putting exclusive content on there. This is really going to be like what I'm going to talk about on YouTube in a little less detail, but you're going to get the first scoop there for sure. Because it's also easier to put things up there and less of a chance to get copyrighted. So it might be a little more enjoyable anyway. But we got to talk about how your boy has been spitting for months, apparently. Because what I've been talking about when I've been talking about Clip-Off, I've been talking about how the strongest demons are not in fact Lucifer. It's actually two, one named Moloch and one named Satan. Now, we all know who Satan is. Moloch is the only one really in question. Whether they're going to go with the name Moloch or not, who knows? Hopefully, because, I mean, he's been pretty accurate with the rest of the names. I'm just not sure about Magicula and whoever the heck Xenon's devil is. Probably Baal or Belial, not Baal. But anyway, we gotta talk. So, we find out that Tetia is not just having a son. She's having twins. This is important. Now, remember, I talk about all these realms of Clip-Off, which is also directly related to the Tree of Life. Now, if we look at the Tree of Life, I've already said this, so I'm not going to go into like super detail. Just go back and watch the other videos. But when we look at the Tree of Life, at the very top, it's a placement called Keter. And that's where Lit stands. He literally stands on it in the Shadow Palace. That is called Keter. And Keter, in the Kabbalistic lore, is the closest to God. Not necessarily God, but the closest to God. And light and all of that good stuff. While the very opposite of Keter would be, and Keter's also the strongest. While the very opposite, the shadow of Keter, would be the strongest demon, which are Satan and Moloch. Now, we know that Satan is void of light. He is void of life and death, or not void of death, but void of light and life. And this perfectly fits the AMD because they say in the beginning that all life has mana. And that's true until we get to Asta. He has no mana. Not that he's dead, of course. He's clearly alive. He don't need mana to survive. But it is a part of regular life until he came along. And then you have just the fact that the qualities of anti-magic is just, it makes sure it voids out any type of magic that it makes contact with. And this is indicative that, to me, that it's probably Satan. But what I want to push right now is the fact that, yes, this comes down to bloodline. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. They actually want Asta to be a nobody. I'm part of those people. I like the fact that Asta is no one. Right now, at least, I think we've gotten that story for a long time where it's just like, okay, like he was no one. Okay, his dad was kind of important. Okay, his whole lineage was kind of bloodlines matter, anime, and that's just the sad reality sometimes. And it's just been the way things have been. But I think this tells us that Asta isn't actually a nobody. He's a nobody, but he's a somebody nobody. It's just weird to say. Anyway, this chapter, I believe, gave us a look into the life cycle of an apostle. So we know that Licht was Keter. Now, his reign as Keter ended, maybe not so much when he turned into that huge demon who I believe was a fused demon of Moloch and Satan, but when his kids were actually about to be born. I think when apostles are giving birth to whatever son or daughter, they give up this position, and we have to look at the size of this little race of elves that Licht was around and ruling over. I hate to use the word ruling because he wasn't really ruling; he was just the leader. They're small, and I think that's for the reason that they're not just out here having kids. They need to maintain these positions on the tree of life, because they need to protect the world. It holds all the balance, and if one of them goes, that means there's going to be an imbalance where devils can possibly escape. And this is something I've been standing on since the inception of this channel. Probably one of the very first things I ever said. So yes, this does leave a little hole, as in like we still need to know how Zagrid was able to get out. And I think the faster we know that, the faster we can start connecting more dots, because his story is very important. Say that what I said is true, that as soon as Licht was going to become a father when Tetia is pregnant, his status as the placeholder of Keter was essentially given up right then and there. And this is where, they probably have certain times that they have sex, because that's how kids are made. I assume. I don't know. I don't know the lore behind sex or anything, but I assume that's how it goes. Anyway, if his status was passed down and Tetia happened to have twins, this makes things really interesting, because I believe that when the whole massacre happened, I believe that Licht was completely overcome with despair. We know he was. We saw it happening in real time. But Lumiere, of course, showed up just in time for him to stop despairing that hard. And he was able to forgive the humans. But by then, I think it was too late. So what I think happened is, when you use forbidden magic, you have to sacrifice something. We're seeing this currently. Asta did it. Looks like the Triad probably did it as well. What did Licht have to sacrifice? Yes, he did sacrifice his body, but is that enough? I mean, yeah, you use your body, yeah, you're probably going to summon something crazy nasty. But we've already talked about how Moloch is known for child sacrifice, right? So I believe this is why two demons came out, and that's why it was like a fusion version. But I believe the son that survived had more elven traits than the one who was sacrificed by Licht. I think Licht, in his despair, was really said, screw all humans, including this this little, and I think that's what ended up happening. He didn't want the elves to be tainted with this human child, probably, and he cast them out and sacrificed his son to use this forbidden magic to take revenge on the humans. Now, this goes into why Zagrid wasn't able to take Licht's grimoire, even though he had perverted it. What I think happened was that the soul of his son hopped into Licht's grimoire in an effort to survive, in a way. And this is where we get the AMD. And this is why Zagreus has no idea who the AMD is. This is why Lucifero had zero idea as to who the AMD was. Because he never made it to the underworld. It was that's just where he was this entire time. Now, there's, of course, a lot of puzzle pieces still missing and, dots to be connected. But I think we have at least an 85% fair chance of getting this right. That the AMD is Lick's sacrificed son for that exact reason. So I was filming this video last week, and I was just talking and ranting like I normally do, and it dawned on me, and no one was talking about it. But when you go back to so much of Black Clover requires a read back of previous events, and you go back to the elf arc, everyone gets elf amps from the elves that died, even And now that we know one son survived this entire thing, went to have kids and a whole lineage, he didn't get that son's magic or that mana boost. He had to get the sacrificed sons. Now, this goes into why we thought didn't get taken over. He kept his frame of mind when everyone else was completely elven taken over and all that. And we thought it was because, there's no way a baby can overpower the mindset of, anyone older than them. I mean, it's just a baby. But I think it's more than that. When Lick sacrificed his son, who is now the AMD, I believe what happened was the magic that baby would have had. I think it was actually going to be wind affinity, much like has. I think that was also sacrificed as well. So this mana that the AMD would have had met the requirements for this reincarnation spell, while his soul didn't, because he kind of survived. He saved himself. So I believe that's why got the amp and didn't get taken over. And what's really more interesting is that I think it also just falls in line with what I just said, because when you're reading this whole Zagreus fight with and Asta was tapped out. Was almost tapped out. Even having that huge boost, trying to match this full-on devil was not really happening. So Yuno's really pushing. And Asta, I think the panel before he creates a black divider was saying there's no way I can keep up. He's tapped out, like I said. His body was completely wasted almost. But pushes himself farther and creates the Spirit of Zephyr. And that was the next level to his power. And then right after that, Asta busts out the Black Divider, which is even more anti-magic than we've seen up until that point. Now, yes, we can go it's the friendship, it's the rivalry, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, totally. You can definitely be that. But with what we have and some dots that we can try to connect, I think it's not unreasonable to believe that and Asta are sharing the power of one being. And Asta having one side, and we see that, when they have their wings and their forms, it's on two completely separate sides of the body, which indicates that there's probably some type of link between them. And yes, we can definitely always just go back to the it's just left-handed and Asta's just right-handed, and that's just the way it works out, since it's not a full-on shift. Fine, totally, it's plausible. But again, with things that we can kind of connect the dots with, I think that's what makes sense. And if we go back to the first chapter where they fight Redchi, the Grimoire responds to not only Asta, but to Because what do we see? We see say, that's my friend, that's my rival. Don't underestimate him. Even when Asta was kind of down and out, he was doubting himself. Then the Grimoire starts to come out of the wall and was given to Asta. That wasn't... I'm telling you guys, that was on purpose. We see Yuno's pendant in particular. I don't want to go into the whole pendant thing because I've already done it in another video. Go watch that one. You guys know my stance. I believe it's more of like a Baelit from Berserk than anything else. But I go into a lot of specifics about it, and how it connects to the lower Cube Solomon and all that, and raising demons and stuff. You should just go watch it. So the fact that they were both there for that, and then this book responded, I don't think that was an accident. I mean, this is part of, somehow plays a part in this. And I don't know, I don't want to say he's like a reincarnation of like, the AMD, but he is somehow connected, as we've seen with the elf arc. He is somehow connected to those elves. And which I will get into. This video might be a little long. No, I'm at like 15 minutes. We're good. I'm just going to start talking like super fast. So there's some other things we got to look at that might push this agenda forward just a little bit. So something I also don't see a lot of people talking about is how magic is passed down. And I think this is a very important aspect of the show because we see a lot of mages and a lot of different types of magic, but no one really, again, talks about how they get that magic. It's not just arbitrary, though. So if we look at a family like the Vermillions, they're all fire-based. So it's clear that probably mom and dad have fire-based magic. We know that with the Clover King, the actual king, I forget his name, it slipped my mind completely. Augustus has light magic, which they've said has been passed down. So we have to assume that mom and dad are probably light mages. And then we get things like Gordon's family, who have some type of curse or poison magic. We have the Silvas, who have water-based magic, with the exception of Nozel, which I think we can probably assume that Papa Silva, if and when he does come into the series, it has the water magic, because we know that Asier doesn't have water magic. So I think it's definitely safe to say that magic gets passed down from mom and dad. Now, if we go all the way back 500 years ago to Tetia and Licht. Licht had light magic. Tetia has wind magic. She had twins. I believe that the one who survived, like I said earlier in this video, was probably more elf-like in nature and characteristic, and probably ended up having light magic. While the other one who was sacrificed, the AMD in this case, would have had wind magic, because Tetia had wind magic, until it was possibly sacrificed with him, and he became the AMD. And so with this whole lineage of people, there was one line, if we think Naruto, let's go back to Naruto. If we think how overpowered clans became, what they were, like the Uchiha and the Uzumaki and the Hyuga, they came from Kaguya. Then Kaguya had two sons, Hagoromo and Hamura. Hamura had the Byakugan. Hagoromo had the Sharingan, and he also had a lot of chakra. So then Hamura created the Hyuga clan. They all have the Byakugan, while Hagoromo goes on to create two sons. One who did not have the Sharingan at all, didn't really have any special feature, except for the fact that he had a lot of chakra, and had the body to take in the chakra. While the other one didn't necessarily have the body to harbor a lot of chakra, but had the extreme visual prowess of having the Sharingan. So if we look at that sort of split, I believe that's what happened with the surviving elf son of Licht, is that he's still going to be somewhat human. He's probably just a little less human. So when you go on and have more kids, let's say he has a human wife, you probably still have an elven son-ish, but then your other son or daughter could be more human. And if it gets more and more diluted as it goes on, you're probably going to get a full-on human who probably has no mana. Now, I think the best way to illustrate this fact is that if you have a litter of puppies, the mom is black, the dad is white, and you have 9 puppies, 4 of them are going to have white coats. The other 4 are going to have black coats. Now you're going to get a defective one. Someone on Twitter, when I put out the first version of this, the Twitter exclusive version, said defective was like kind of harsh. I know there's an actual scientific name for this. I'm just not getting to it. I still can't think of it. But this is the one that's going to be black and white. It's going to have mix of both. And this one actually has more likely to develop either extreme tolerances to things or extreme deficiencies to things. And when I say that, you guys can probably get to the fact that I'm alluding to Asta being this defect. And he's probably the first human ever to have no mana whatsoever, which makes him this somebody nobody. And makes him perfect to wield the grimoire that he has, which is Lick's grimoire, with possibly his son inside of it. This is all coming out the crazy crackhead Jack woodworks of my brain. So, just let me know in the comment section below what you think. Like, do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you have like a different take on it? I would like to know. Put it in the comment section, or follow me on Twitter and just like hit me up on there. Hit up one of my posts. Talk about it. But yeah, that's kind of all I got. I just think this series just took a massive turn. And now when I thought they were closing doors, they're opening all these other doors. So really interesting stuff happening. If you're not reading it and you're just watching this, now we're like 23 minutes in, 27. It's like 24. I can't see. Anyway, if you're like this far, I thank you for watching. But like, if you're not reading this, go read that. Like, go read it now. But this has been Jack OATz to Go. Thank you for tuning in. You either know or you don't.